Hello, I'm Adrian, and today we're taking a look at 10 more incredible entries in the awesome genre of mechs or mechas, or however you'd like to call giant robots you can pilot. If you haven't seen volumes 1 and 2, I highly recommend you do so, as you'll probably see even more of your favorite games on those lists, and they are both available in the description below. Furthermore, since this is part of an all-time list, we're going to be hopping between multiple console generations spanning the last 30-some years. Without further ado, let's begin.
Number 10.
Dynowarz, Destruction of Spondylus.
We start off the list with a classic NES game complete with totally rad cover art, Dynowarz, The Destruction of Spondylus, in which after exploring around as a human for a bit, you get to pilot an awesome Tyrannosaurus Rex-like mech known as Cyborosaurus as you battle your way through space. You get several power-ups along the way, and the game still plays quite well despite its age and simplified control scheme. I mean, back in the day, you only had 2 buttons and that's it. Also, fun fact, in case you're wondering where the name Spondylus is from, paleontologist Edward Cope found 2 partial vertebrae in 1892 and decided they were part of a new dinosaur and called it Spondylus gigas. We now know that those vertebrae happen to belong to none other than Tyrannosaurus Rex. And if you're a fan of T-Rex, check out my 3D animation T-Rex vs Spinosaurus.
Number 9.
Gunmetal.
You know that really awesome sequence from the first Transformers movie where Starscream demolishes a team of jets while transforming in and out of his robot form? This is a 2004 Xbox version of that. In this mech game, you alternate between controlling a jet as well as an awesome mech. The mission objectives can get a bit repetitive and you may not always know exactly what you're supposed to be doing all the time, but the fun combat and transforming mechanic really make up for it. And best of all, Megatron doesn't show up to kick you around.
Number 8.
Into the Breach.
For those of you missing a turn-based mech RPG like the good old days of Front Mission, you can't go wrong with Into the Breach. In this game, available on the Switch and PC among others, you're tasked with making a series of tactical decisions in order to not only defeat enemies, but protect your bases, in each bite-sized chess-style 8x8 board. While there are other more graphically impressive tactical mech games out there nowadays, such as Dual Gear, I couldn't help but feel that Into the Breach tops them in terms of gameplay. The pixel art is also incredibly well done.
Number 7.
Omega Boost.
This is an entertaining, mostly on-rails shooter where you pilot a cool-looking mech across space that looks straight out of Macross. And why is that so? Because said mech designs were created by Shoji Kawamori, the very same man who worked on Macross. The missions take place in waves, as you work on taking out each enemy on screen before moving on to the next wave. It has an incredibly stylish look, and to this day the controls are silky smooth. The game's graphics were truly superb for the time, as this was one of the last games developed for the PlayStation. And not only that, this mech game has the incredible distinction of being the one and only game that Polyphony Digital has worked on that is not a racing game. Yes, the very same developer that has made over 50,000 Gran Turismos. Okay, maybe they made a little less. Oh, and in case you'd like to play a more modern take on this kind of space shooter, you can always try Strike Suit Zero, which is currently available on Steam, PS4, and Switch. It also incorporates a transforming mechanic similar to Gunmetal.
Number 6.
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the Fighting Edition.
Back in the 90s, one of the biggest franchises for kids was Power Rangers. These guys dominated television, toys, and even the box office. Naturally, a slew of video games were released, including the beat-em-up Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, an excellent straight-up adaptation of the TV show. It even features an awesome end sequence where you get to control the classic Megazord. This concept was then taken to its full power with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers The Fighting Edition, where the entire game is dedicated to controlling said gigantic mechs with a couple of classic foes including Lord Zed himself. I enjoyed it a lot as a kid, and thought the style that the Ninja Megazord moved in was so incredibly cool. Man, I wish he fought like that in the show.
Number 5.
Metal Wolf Chaos.
In Metal Wolf Chaos, you control the President of the United States as he battles his way across tanks and helicopters while piloting a gigantic mech. While that might have read as a political journalist's fever dream, this is an actual game that released for the Xbox, and was thankfully eventually ported to PS4, PC, and Xbox One in 2019, bringing it into the modern era with the new title of Metal Wolf Chaos XD. That's the footage you've been seeing so far. The game was made back in the day because Microsoft wanted a cool console exclusive to gain some traction for their fledgling Xbox in Japan and other Asian territories. So they decided to tap the developer behind the incredibly successful Armored Core series, as mech games tended to sell really well in Japan, and have them make an over-the-top mech game set in the States. Metal Wolf Chaos completely lives up to its premise and then some.
Number 4.
Robot Alchemic Drive.
The controls are a little clunky and take getting used to, and the voiceovers aren't the best, but the presentation of this game is absolutely top notch. What sets this mech game apart from others is that the sense of scale and size of these robots is never lost. While in other games it's easy to forget you're piloting a giant robot, since you typically move around with great speed and everything else around you is so massive as well, here the game goes to great lengths to show just how big the robots are by frequently using camera angles from the ground up, and having buildings and pedestrians as a reference to retain the human perspective of size. As you play the game, you're also tasked with getting a good vantage point to observe the action as a tiny little human. The controls also emphasize the robot's weight, as it's an absolute chore just to get the guy to move. You can even play the game sitting right on top of the robot's shoulder. It's truly a shame that several of these cool mech concepts never made it past the PS2.
Number 3.
Virtual On, Cyber Troopers.
Considered a pioneer in the mech gaming genre, Virtual On debuted on arcades way back in 1995 and was eventually released for the Sega Saturn and PC as well. It had sequels and remakes, but I'm placing the very first one on this list because of how different it was to other arcade fighting games of the time. Instead of fighting on a 2D plane, you were placed in a 3D space, and were able to take down your opponent's mech, or as they were known in this world, Virtuaroids, using firearms and explosives. The game's title was initially going to be Virtual On in Japan and Cyber Troopers for North America, but they were eventually combined to the full title of Virtual On Cyber Troopers. This was kind of seen again many years later with the release of Resident Evil 7, as over here it's known as Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, while in Japan it's known as Biohazard 7 Biohazard. Nah, it's Biohazard 7 Resident Evil. But it made you think, huh?
Number 2.
Steel Battalion.
If you've ever wondered what it might feel like to actually control a mech, this is probably the closest thing that's ever been released to replicating it. Sure, there are now mech VR games like Vox Machina, which are fun to play and do a great job of giving you the perspective of being there, but no mech game since has designed a physical controller that could actually be present inside said mech. Steel Battalion's dedicated peripheral controller was a massive beast that featured 44 input points, including buttons, joysticks, a throttle handle, radio channel dial, 5 switches, an eject button, and 3 foot pedals. I never got a chance to personally play it, but according to the people that actually did, it was an incredible one-of-a-kind experience. As a matter of fact, if you're one of the lucky few who did, please let me know what you thought of it in the comments below, because it'd be great to hear about it.
Honorable mention.
Front Mission Series, Gun Hazard.
Hailing from the same series that is widely regarded as one of the best in the tactical mech genre, we got this awesome side-scroller from Squaresoft. It's quite similar in look and feel to the other great side-scrolling mech game from the Super Nintendo, Cybernator, but this one implements RPG mechanics into its gameplay.
Number 1.
Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon.
If you think I made this entire video just so I could talk about Armored Core 6, a game many fans seriously doubted From Software would ever go back to considering their last installment released over a decade ago, you are absolutely correct! Armored Core returned with a vengeance and once again proved why the series is second to none when you're in the mood for a game with incredible moment-to-moment mech combat with a robust customization system. This one even bears great resemblance to what is widely considered one of the best Armored Core games, For Answer, and also reminded me of the really cool cel-shaded Switch game, Daemon X Machina. With an overhauled fluid control scheme, Armored Core 6 is much more inviting to newer audiences while still retaining the complex customization for missions it's known for, and I can't recommend it enough. I'd like to thank each one of my Patreon members as their contribution helped in the making of this video. If you'd like to contribute and appear in the credits in the future, my Patreon page is Godzillarex and it's in the description below.
Bonus honorable mentions.
Front Mission 2 Remake released within moments of me finishing this video, so I decided to go back in and include it along with Front Mission First Remake. Both are tactical turn-based RPGs within this legendary series, and I can't wait for them to remake Front Mission 3. Which is your favorite mech game? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe for more awesome videos. See you next time.